Welcome back to The Short Game, a show about short, often innovative video games. The type of games that you can complete on a weekend or maybe a one evening or maybe longer, depending on how good you are at puzzles. My name is Nate, and I'm joined this week by Laura Nash.
Hello.
And Reagan Kelly.
Hi, everybody.
And today we're going to be talking about goats.
Goats.
And this is not an episode about Goat Simulator, if anyone is curious. I don't think we could talk for more than 5 minutes about Goat Simulator.
You know, I still haven't played Goat Simulator, and I really want to, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But it's strange, we've been in the middle of a goat renaissance in indie games.
A goat-assance. The only time I have played Goat Simulator was when it was briefly an MMO, and it was hilarious. And I think it converted back, or I don't know. Whenever I look at my Steam library, it doesn't look like it's an MMO anymore. So I don't know if that was just like a weird weekend or...
I seem to think you accidentally launching it during a recording session.
Yeah, and it got stuck. And it was, I had, what was that? It was Goat Simulator and like FTL looped at the same time. And I had FTL music over top goat noises. I don't know. It was a weird time.
Weird time in your life.
And goats are just inherently weird and interesting and funny. And I think that's why Escape Goat, the first one, today we're talking about Escape Goat 2 from MagicalBeanTime. But the very first Escape Goat was a little bit of a sleeper hit. It came out in 2011. And it was a sort of pixel art style, maybe 16-bit looking puzzle platformer from MagicalBeanTime. And it was only like $5. And so I think because of that low price point and the fact that it had a goat in it, the fact that the title was a pun, it became this sort of sleeper hit. But I think the real reason that people latched onto it was that it wasn't just this jokey title and amusing premise of a goat imprisoned for sorcery and trying to escape from a magical tower.
Like goats do.
And save his brethren, the sheep. It was also a really good puzzle platformer in a very classic style. It has a feel of a sort of a puzzle platformer from the 90s, or, it feels like it might be a puzzle platformer from an earlier era. It's really classic. It's not doing anything incredibly flashy, but it's a really well-designed game with really clever, simple, really straightforward, but also really challenging and well-designed puzzles.
And a lot of them. I mean, how many puzzles are in this game?
Well, that was one of the complaints about the first game. I mean, we're a show that loves short games, but the first game had only 50 levels in it, and you could easily complete it 100% in under 2 hours.
Yeah, but the nice thing about that game is they did include a custom level builder, so people started building their own levels. And as the second game came out, they added a lot more abilities. They expanded the game, added high definition graphics, and it got a lot more attention because it started off as part of the PAX 10. Penny Arcade Expo has an indie game showcase where they pick 10 games they're really excited about. And the developer apparently went to a panel, was told that the number one criteria that kept people out of the PAX 10 was having a terrible first 15 minutes. People always got stuck. There was something that, stumbling block. He play tested the hell out of the first 15 minutes and got in the PAX 10. And that got him noticed by Doublefine, who then, people who made Broken Age and Grim Fandango, our last episode. And as a result, he's got kind of a nice publishing push. So Escape Goat 2, although it's the first time I've ever played the series, is the one most people are familiar with.
Yeah, it's in a sense kind of an HD remake of the first game with a lot of expansion. It's got very similar puzzle design and mechanics. Your goat has mostly the same abilities, although there's some new items and other things that are going to be part of the levels. And it's still a really cheap, simple, straightforward puzzle game that if you're in the mood for a puzzle platformer, this is a puzzle platformer of the, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for?
Polish?
Yeah, but it's like
Caliber?
It's like a perfect puzzle platformer, what's the...
platonic ideal.
That is actually exactly what I was looking for.
You were
Thank
looking for the phrase
I was
platonic
looking for the phrase platonic
Yes,
ideal.
I'm so good at
You are
this.
so good. This is the
Oh.
platonic ideal of puzzle platformers. It's a it's a puzzle platformer. Like if I had to invent
what
a
it
puzzle
is.
platformer in my brain, it would be a Scapegoat 2, although it probably wouldn't feature a goat.
Let's be honest. It would feature a goat.
I mean, this goat is purple. This goat has green horns.
And he's got a friend who's a little mouse.
Yeah, a fun little mouse.
So we can spend a second talking about the story of the game. So this is where we're going to put our spoiler break.
A single second.
It's a goat you're escaping.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had assumed part of it was callbacks to the first game. But
Not really.
I don't know. There's not a lot of text, but there's certainly text in this game. And I had no idea what any of it was referring to. Sometimes it's a little joke. Sometimes it's like really ominous, like, don't go forward. Everything is dead. Sometimes it's like, I wish I could sleep longer. And it's all disjointed and it's funny and kind of weird and it works, I guess, but it's not really what the game is focused on.
Yeah, you're escaping from a tower, and the tower is full of puzzle levels. In each section of the puzzles, like not every level, but every few levels, there's a sheep that you can, I don't know, help escape.
You'll release the soul of the sheep.
Yes, you find the soul orbs, the soul orbs of the sheep, and then you
course.
you
Which
release
the sheep
those.
are still alive.
That is a little
they're
confusing.
asleep. They're asleep, and you
Or are they
wake
ghosts?
them up.
Are they ghosts?
I don't
No,
think
because
they're
there are
ghosts.
also ghosts in this game.
Oh
Yeah,
god, you're right.
there
There's
are-
also ghosts.
It's very clear when there are ghosts. There's a ghost mouse that's kind of seems to be almost like the butler of the tower. There's a ghost pig that I don't know. He's just being a ghost
Yeah,
pig telling you things.
Clearly, when the goat walks over a pile of bones, then the ghost spirit of that animal comes and tells you the next ominous plot point that doesn't matter.
There's no plot in this game at all. It's
No.
so weird in that way, actually. Like, I don't think I've played a game this purely about puzzles in a long, long time.
But
There's cool names of things like you're ascending the spine of the stronghold, which I think is a great name for the center column of a map.
yeah,
Yep.
there's
That's really what it is.
what is it? The lair of the necromouser, which is a fun little part. Like, yeah,
The
it's
Temple of Adoration.
we're kind of making fun of it, but it's definitely got a lot of character. It's just what those characters mean, are doing, or why they exist. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really
Someone
matter.
thought it would be fun, and it is.
Yeah,
So
it is fun.
Don't think past it.
So story-wise, pretty thin, and frankly, art-wise and music-wise, also kind of thin. And this isn't me kind of giving the game a hard time, but like this game was all about the puzzle design. And in a lot of ways, I think that its art and even its music, along with its story, are kind of afterthoughts. They're there to, they're serviceable. They're fine. The art is basically looks sort of like an HD remake of the first game, and it looks good. What do you guys think?
I thought the music was better than you're giving it credit for. I will say, they did a good job of mixing it up with each kind of zone that you went into.
That's true.
By the end of the zone, I had kind of stopped recognizing it, but as each zone kind of started, I would say, "Oh, this is kind of nice," or "This is a good little change." It was something that I noticed. The art design, I mean, you're right. It's nice. The colors are nice. I kind of kept getting like, I guess the closest game I can think of that we've done already is like a higher quality, higher pixel density of like Towerfall. Like I kept getting a Towerfall vibe from it, and maybe it's just because there's towers involved, but I don't think so. It's that same kind of like bold colors.
Yeah, and I think the art design, this game would be fun if it was blocks and, red squares, blue squares. And I think they've added just a little bit of personality to go with the random little bit of weird random story, a little bit of weird random art, having, an idle animation where the goat stares at you for a while if you're stuck is fun. It's not
Yeah, he
like
kind of looks out of the
Machinarium.
screen at you like, what are you doing, stupid?
Why are you waiting? It's not like Machinarium where you pause for a minute and the robot dreams an extensive cutscene on his own. That's not this game. What you're paying attention to is the level. And that's great.
Yeah, the game works quick. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about mechanics as we move on, but it's all kind of in service. Like, the art design is nice, but you're moving so fast from level to level, it would be almost a waste for them to really spend a lot of time, like, really getting into the design. Because, I mean, if you know what you're doing, a puzzle can be completed in, probably 15 seconds?
Yeah,
and then in reality, you're probably spending 1 to 5 minutes playing each puzzle, maybe more if you really get stuck. But there were plenty where I entered the puzzle, and was like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing here, and would just go right through it. Maybe a few hiccups, because the controls are quick.
Yeah.
And I think everything is very clear. It's ice, it's a wood block, it's a fireball. The art is never detrimental.
Yeah.
It's very clear and straightforward, and it knows that get out of the way.
Yeah, I'd say actually design and art-wise, the thing that I would compare it most to would actually be things like board games where, you're looking at a tile and it's like, well, this is a wood tile, or this is a grain chip or whatever. Like, everything looks exactly like what it's supposed to look like. It's all kind of just blocks. And at some point, it's like the Matrix. I don't even see the code anymore. Well, I don't see the goat. I don't see the walls. I just see puzzle elements,
Yeah. The game is definitely designed on a grid fashion.
Yeah. So it's really it's enough art to give it a theme, but it's a theme that's there in service of puzzles. It's not there to be immersive. And it works, but I would say that it's probably, if you're going into this expecting a world of exciting goat art, I think, maybe not.
And in this game, the screen is a single room you must escape. There is no going right or left in a puzzle. What you see on your screen is your level. And the other nice thing about that restriction is that it gives you a chance to have some Rube Goldberg-y obstacle course type elements. It's very contained. And I think that helps with the puzzle platformer sense, because you have all the tools on your screen if you can just do them in the right order, pick up the right pieces, flip the right switches.
Yeah, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is that your goat can die in a lot of different ways.
Your goat will die.
It's not can die.
Not can,
will die.
Will.
And you'll probably die a lot. And it pretty much, you die and it resets almost immediately. It goes dead. And then you start back at the beginning of the puzzle. And there's a lot of puzzles that are reliant upon timing, doing the right order in the right time, or doing, running along this barrel that's on fire and getting out of the way of it just in time. But there's also a lot of puzzles that you have your time to think about it and try different things. And I like the pacing of it, where I generally like puzzle games that allow me to take my time and figure it out and try different things, and not necessarily punish me for trying a lot of different things. And I think this game kind of hits the perfect middle ground, where you get to try a lot of things, and you're probably going to die a lot, but it resets so fast that, other than some of the puzzles where it really is an extended Rube Goldberg machine, and dying at the very end of it can be incredibly frustrating, other than that, I thought they handled that element really well. Starting over. It's not quite like VVV, where once you die, you start immediately back. But that was the closest game I could think of that kind of compared to it, where you can just keep trying until you get it.
It's got incredible feedback system. I wrote die, experiment, die in the outline, because you can throw something at the wall, see how it changes the environment, see how it changes the level, and have a good hypothesis to test on the next time you go through. This game has an exceptional flow to it, the way that you learn an element, master it, get a variation, and move through. And it's true both in the individual levels. You get better through a single stage, but also through the world, where you might have 4 or 5 rooms on a, experimenting with a single mechanic. Both of those are very well calibrated. He probably play tested every level a bazillion times to get this level. There are a few times where I didn't understand why I won, but that was very few and far between. I feel like that's something I get a lot on puzzle platformers. Well, accidentally will stumble upon the answer and maybe not know how I got there. Here I felt very deliberately. I knew why I succeeded.
So we've been praising the heck out of the balance and the real, the smart puzzles in this game. But let's talk a little bit about how those puzzles actually work. So it's a puzzle platformer that really doesn't rely on great platforming skill. We were talking about there's not a lot of great precision required most of the time.
This is not Super Meat Boy.
Yeah, this is not Super Meat Boy at all. This is not even Mario. We have a character, our goat, with a number of really incredible powers. You have a powerful character
For a goat.
For a goat.
Powerful skills for a goat.
Well, you don't really know how powerful the average goat is, do you?
No, but I have a general idea.
Well,
I think goats can double jump in life.
Well, yeah. This one can just double jump higher than normal goats. And I've seen at least one goat swap spaces with a mouse magically.
You're better at goats than me.
Yeah. So our goat has a double jump, obviously, and honestly, any game that gives you a double jump immediately has just made platforming in general a lot easier. But he also, in addition to the double jump, has a dash move, kind of like the tower fall dash move or any other, you hit a shoulder button on a controller or something on your keyboard and you do a midair dash in whatever direction you were previously moving in.
It's a ram, okay? He clearly puts his head down and
Is that a pun?
Well...
No, it's a fact.
Yeah,
it's both. It's both.
I guess.
This game is called a scapegoat. Of course, it's a pun.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so your ram move is one of your tool set, one of your verbs, and then you've also got a mouse companion from the very beginning of the game that you can. Well, actually, I guess from the first or second level, but your mouse companion can do a number of things too. So you can set down the mouse, and it will walk along the floor or walls because the mouse can wall walk and ceiling walk. In whatever direction until it reaches an obstacle it can't walk on, and then it'll walk back. And it can depress buttons and so on. Or you can set the mouse down on switches, and it'll just sit there and wait. And then, of course, there's some additional options that the mouse can do. Like you can toss the mouse into the air, or you can collect magic hats for the mouse that give the mouse new abilities. So you're really, I'd say, almost overpowered from the very beginning. And it's not about unlocking new abilities. You get almost all these abilities from the very start of the game. So it's really just about taking what you have, these incredible set of skills that your goat possesses, and applying them to these puzzles.
There's a couple aha moments throughout there. The moment you realize you can jump, double jump, and then throw your mouse straight up to maybe hit a button that's really high up in the ceiling. That one kind of tricked me for a bit. I think that most of the puzzles, it kind of evolved like that. There was almost always some little trick, some little thing that you had to figure out just the right way to do it to solve it. It would be like you could see what you needed to do. I need to press this button. Okay, when I press this button, it's going to drop this key. Once I collect all the keys, it'll open the door. How do I press this button? And it'd be something silly like that. Like I'd try a million different things. And finally, oh my God, I did not think about double jumping and then throwing my mouse straight up. Just something as simple as that. But it takes you like experimenting and figuring out what your goat and mouse combo is truly capable of.
And what I think makes this game so special is that if they gate the answer to the previous puzzle, a level down the line, 2 levels down the line, that's just going to be baked into the early stage of the puzzle. Now you've gotten this, move on. And it's something that in Guacamelee or something else that is platformy but more sandbox, where, it's a little more the Metroidvania version. You don't get all the powers at once. You are going to be visiting stages a lot. You might not know what tools would get you there. Scapegoat 2, you know exactly, if I need this in this room, it's here.
They also did a good job. Like, there were 2 different times that I thought I solved the puzzle in a way that the that wasn't necessarily intended. And I do think that that's possible. I think that there's multiple ways you can go about doing
I always think
puzzle.
that's kind of a more rewarding way to solve puzzles if you get that option.
Well, but here's the reason I bring this up, and I agree. I agree. And I thought it was a really obscure way to solve a puzzle. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to look up a guide after having completed it and see what people recommend, just to see if I really did figure out this really weird way to solve this puzzle. Because to me, it felt weird. And I found a video, and it was literally exactly the way I did the puzzle. And I was like, all right, nice job, developer. You know,
Well, you felt really smart there, though, didn't you?
I did, and that's my point. I felt it felt so weird that I was like, there's no way that that's the way you're supposed to do it. And then I went back and yep, at least that's the way the one video I watched. That's also how they figured it out.
Yeah, the game constantly made me feel smart like that. You know, solving each one of these puzzles was really rewarding. None of them were overpoweringly hard, but also none of them felt like throwaways. And they really progressed really well too. Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about how the levels are laid out. There's a level map, and you're progressing upwards through the tower. But branching off from this central, spine of the tower, are these little snaky hallways, and each of those hallways is a series of puzzle rooms. And all those puzzle rooms are usually kind of united by some kind of mechanic or theme, something that you have to learn how to do. And you're learning the whole way through. It never lets you just say, oh, okay, this is another one like the previous one, but a little different layout. Every single puzzle in the 100 or some odd puzzles that were in this game did something that no other puzzle in the game had done.
And one of the nicest extras here is that you can choose to do optional puzzles. You can choose to go off the required path. And when you do, the puzzles are harder. The more effort you have to undergo to unlock that puzzle, the harder it is. Puzzles that are optional side quests, harder than the main road. If you find a secret room, which I found one of, I know there's more. I know there's a lot more, but I found a secret room. That room was quite hard. So I'm sure that the deeper in you go, and for the really hardcore gamer, you're going to get a lot of puzzles that you've never seen, you would never see if you're just going through a casual run.
Yeah, I just played through at my standard pace, not really seeking secrets over much, and it took me about 4 hours to complete the game. But that's at about 50% completion. You can escape the tower and probably only have filled in about 50% of the map. But if you really spend the time to go explore more, you'll find a lot more puzzles. And the best reward for exploration in any game is more game. The more you explore, the more you look for new stuff to do, the more you're going to find to do. And it really rewards the player that wants to solve those harder puzzles.
Yeah, I initially set out to complete every puzzle that came my way. So as I would unlock more rooms, often you have an opportunity to go up to move into one phase of puzzles or one zone of puzzles, or go left and do that zone of puzzles. I would try to do both zones. And as I neared the top of the tower, and as we were nearing recording, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go straight up. And I felt like I had completed a lot of the game. Like I had, if you think of it like as a bucket, and you're filling it up with puzzles being completed, I thought that I was near the top of it. And I finished it, and I'd played about 5 hours and 15 minutes, and I was only at 70%. So there's clearly more secret rooms and things like that I had not found at all. And I spent a lot of time trying to complete as much of it as I could.
So I'm curious what you guys' favorite mouse superpower is, because the cool thing in here is that you as the goat don't have any of the superpowers. They almost all go to your mouse companion. So if you pick up a magic element, the mouse wears the magic hat, the mouse has the hammer, the mouse gets the cape. You just have your double jump and dash, which is pretty powerful. But I'm curious, what is your favorite mouse companion power-up?
No question, it was the one that made a ton of mice. I mean, I forget what it was called.
The spawn totem thing?
Yeah. I don't know what it called.
That was the
game.
Necromouser. That was
Right.
That was
Yes.
yeah, the Necromouser.
So those puzzles were always a lot of fun because you ended up with the chaos of having tons and tons of mice on screen. I loved those levels. Those were a great part of the game.
Well, one of the best moments in that zone too is there's I believe it's the magic hat that lets you switch spots with the mouse.
Oh yeah.
And you also normally you only have one mouse, and they use that really well, kind of zipping around the level. And also when you don't just like teleport from one to the other instantly, you actually create a straight line on the level between the two, and you kind of will destroy enemies or boxes or anything that's destructible in between you. And you'll actually use that to battle, or not battle, but you'll use it to clear ways and kill enemies and things like that. But what was cool, and it was unexpected to me, is they gave me that magic hat when I had control of 5 of the mice. And there was a really interesting puzzle where you had to lay out by having them sit down instead of having the mouse run. You had to sit them in the exact right spots so that you could warp between all 5 of the mice perfectly.
In just the right order, yeah.
In just the right order, and complete the puzzle that way. And I thought that was a really good use of multiple tools. Most of them were like, okay, this level you have the cape. Now how to use the cape properly. This level you have just the hat. How to use the hat properly. This one was you have the hat and you have 5 mice. Good luck.
And you have to make sure that the mice are wearing, you have to get the hat before you get the mice. So the mice are wearing the hat when you duplicate them. Because if you do it in the wrong order, then you have all these mice all over the place and only one of them wears a hat and you're just screwed.
There's another, major element of the game that we haven't hit yet is like tricking enemies. Basically, so there's several different types of things that can kill you, but there's really one kind of bad guy.
Oh, the little reapers that shoot fireballs.
They basically look like Grim Reapers, little skeleton Grim Reapers, and they have a scythe. And if you are on the same plane as them, even if there's something in between you, blocks or whatever, they will just continually shoot a fireball at you. And there's a lot of stuff in the game that is combustible. And so a lot of the game, or many of the puzzles, will be jumping in front of the guy with the scythe so that he'll shoot a fireball, but then getting out of the way of the fireball so that it'll hit a barrel that will explode and send a second fireball up to burn what's the word I'm looking for? Like the wood tile, wood boxes, which will drop another barrel. And you create these crazy things, all starting from like tricking these bad guys. What I liked about it is, a lot of times you enter a level and there's bad guys and you're like, okay, how do I kill the bad guys so I can clear the zone and be free to solve the puzzle? Well, a lot of times killing the bad guys, you have to start over because you need those bad guys alive to trigger the certain things. Sometimes you're tricking bad guys into stepping on buttons for you.
Yeah. It's really just about knowing what all of the enemy behavior is. And once you kind of understand exactly what they're going to do at all times, then really they're just another element of the puzzles.
Yeah, and this game is really about paying attention to your environment, the mechanic, so that you can tee up the chain reactions properly. And I think it's super fun, especially when you start getting towards the end levels that combine a lot of different elements together, to see that ripple effect. When you nail a reaction properly, it's extremely satisfying. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of a good puzzle platformer. It's just complex enough that you can screw it up easily. And when you get it right, you feel like you are great at games and smart.
Yeah, that's what I love about puzzle platformers.
I am a smart person. I am a good person.
Very affirming games.
I mean, some of us had a hard week this week, and I think this game was zen. I got to focus on something and be good at it, and it felt great.
Yeah, it does feel good to be good at this game. Like, it makes you feel smart. And it's not an uber challenging game. And it never frustrated me. Even when I couldn't figure something out, I would just go try a different level and I'd feel smart about something else. It's a zen experience. I think that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, and giving the options to stop a puzzle and go to another one, but still leaving it optional, I think is such a nice move in puzzle games. Like, we talked a lot about that with the Swapper. where you'd get stuck on a puzzle that was particularly difficult, and you would think, you know what? There's a lot of puzzles I have to finish. Maybe I'm just going to skip this one. This one's too frustrating right now. I've spent 10 minutes, dying. I'm just going to move on. And then at the end of the swapper, it turned out you actually did have to complete every single puzzle to move forward.
And they never told you. Ugh.
This game, I thought it was pretty obvious that I wasn't going to need to do everything. And, like some of the text from the ghosts and stuff, while as obscure and abstract as it was, every once in a while they would say something like, hey, how many of your sheep friends are you going to get before you leave? And it was like, okay, so now I know I don't actually have to collect all of my sheep souls in order to leave the tower.
Sheep
so
souls.
Important to collect those sheep souls.
You got to get those sheep souls.
I honestly would have thought of sheep and goats as actual natural enemies.
That's me too.
Bros.
The choice of sheep was strange to me. I thought it would just be more goat souls. Really drive home the goat thing.
Well, I don't know. I suppose he's shepherding his flock, that sort of thing.
Dude, wait.
It's biblical.
The goat is shepherding a flock of
sheep. Yeah,
of sheep.
Of sheep souls.
Sure, and a mouse. Also a mouse. And
I think this game lends
And a pig.
itself
There's
to
a pig.
headcanon. I think you could just dream up this entire backstory of like maybe the goat stole all of these sheep souls and then had to go get them back. I don't know. You can make up whatever you want.
I'm shipping the goat with the sheep in my head.
Oh, not the goat and the mouse? Because those are clearly meant for each other.
No, they're bros.
No, you
They're
guys,
bros.
you're missing. It was the pig ghost and the mouse wearing the magic
okay.
hat.
Okay.
was where the relationship was.
Yeah, that happened off screen, but you're right. It was smoldering romance.
You could tell. The way that pig floated there after you ran through its corpse.
I mean, all of that wall climbing is just, latent desire.
Yeah, that's a sexy mouse, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I ship myself with the mouse. All right.
I was a little bummed that they didn't give the mouse more personality, actually. And the goat didn't get a whole lot, but frankly, he didn't need it. He's a goat. Goats are already awesome. But I kind of wish the mouse had, like a name.
Go watch Fievel Goes West.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
I think we're running out of things to talk about with the goat game.
I will say one quick thing. If you really have sucked at a level, this didn't happen to me, I promise, but I did look it up. You can get a rage quit option. That if you see the death too many times on a single level, instead of dead, it will pop up rage quit ? And it will ask you if you'd like to just, the screen turns red and you go back to the map.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
I didn't see it, but I
didn't get that
heard about
either.
that. And apparently, it's an option, which I think is just an extra level of nice addition.
And on that note, I have only one tiny gripe with this game. It's minuscule, but it was just weird to me. If you want to quit the game, you can't quit from the level select screen. You actually had to be, at least I couldn't find a way. You had to start a puzzle and then quit the game from that puzzle.
I read a little bit about they had some issues with the development, and they were finessing the map screen, so that might have been one of the reasons.
That's weird. I ran into some trouble with the saving. Now, this is a pretty minor issue. I was running the PS4 version of the game, and with the PS4, at any time you can hit the PlayStation button and it kicks you to the home screen, or you can put the console to sleep, or shut it off. I found that if I didn't exit to the title screen of the game, or at least to the map before closing the game, it didn't save my progress back to the last time I had been on the map screen. So I lost a little bit of progress. It wasn't a big deal because once you know the solutions to the puzzles, it's really quick to go back through, but it was a little frustrating.
Did you guys play, both of you play with a controller?
I did, yes.
I played half and half.
Because it actually, I think a controller for most games, especially puzzle platformers, is recommended, but it actually says right when you turn on the game. At least I played on my computer. It says, please plug in your controller. A controller is recommended. But the situation that I started playing the game, I didn't have my controller with me. And so it's a puzzle platformer. I'm pretty good at these games as far as keyboard controls go. I think I'll be fine. And For the most part, I was. I will say, though, so the way they do it is they have, you're using the normal directional pad, and then, like, Z is jump, X is ram, C is drop up your mouse, and then V is, like, whatever your hat power is. And I did find myself, like, my biggest cause of frustration in this game was purely self-inflicted, where I would mean to hit, ram, instead I would drop my mouse, and then both me and the mouse would plummet to our deaths. Or I would, like, the most frustrating one is there's often times with the magic hat where you have to set up your mouse on one corner of the screen, go all the way to the other side of the map, oftentimes through perilous jumps and kind of perfect timing, and then you would hit V to switch back and forth. Well, I would get all the way up there and try to hit V, and I'd be trying to go too fast, and I'd hit C and just warp my mouse all the way back over to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think I know why they recommended a controller, and it's just because I'd fat finger everything. And it's because those buttons are all so close to each other on your keyboard. I'm trying to use 4 buttons, like pinky, ring finger, pointer, middle finger, like all at the same time. And
when I do keyboard, the first thing I do is I remap. Even if I haven't played the game, I just guess based on what they are. So I remap to left and right shift, space, R for restarting, tab. The only time that I messed myself up playing keyboard was purely a mental model mistake that I would mean to hit right shift and I would hit R. I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
I kept killing myself. And so eventually I just because I was thinking right and hit R. So I eventually just remapped that button and life was great.
And there is no, that makes sense. There is no lag between hitting R and dead.
No, you're just dead instantly. And I kept trying to, like, throw my mouse in the air and killing myself. Eventually I just turned it to the delete key. It's not that hard. This is not Guacamelee.
No. I did not have that one, but I was just imagining, like, if someone was watching me on Twitch or something like that, like, okay, that was a really simple jump. Why did he ram himself right into that laser beam? It was like really stupid stuff. Like there's a fireball in front of me and I have to jump over it. Oh, he dropped his mouse. Okay, now they're both dead. Over and over.
If someone was watching me, they'd be like, why did you keep committing suicide when you're about to finish the level?
You just don't want it to end.
Yeah. Do you guys know how many times you died in the game?
No, I really should have made a note of that number. It was definitely like a lot.
So again, I managed to complete, as far as like the percentage goes at the end of the game, a little bit more than I know than you did, Reagan, just because of the way we both went about it. But I can tell you that I died 359 times.
Wow.
I think that a lot of those were self-inflicted from that previous kind of thing. I would say at least 100 of them were me hitting
I think
the
my
wrong
number
button.
was between 100 and 200. Like it was like 180 or something like
Now,
that.
I feel like mine was closer to Nate, but again, I was perpetually killing myself accidentally.
And you completed 50% of the game.
Oh, no, I got a little farther. I completed 50% of the game by the time I escaped the tower, but then I went back and played a fair amount more.
Did you see your deaths after going in? Because I got into some of those ones that I think would be considered the ones that are really hard, where it's either completion or death. There's certainly a lot of puzzles where you can mess up, but it doesn't mean you die. You just kind of restart the Rube Goldberg or whatever.
Yeah.
The deeper you get, it's like you're just going to be dying a lot until you nail it.
Yeah, it really requires like a perfect run for it to actually complete.
You get trapped somewhere.
Spoiler alert, when you beat the game, you and the mouse just sit and watch the castle collapse together. And I thought that was hilarious. It's really nice looking too. It pulls back and like the colors are all nice and the tower just starts shaking and crumbles into the ground. And it's like, well, okay, I didn't know it was crumbling also.
Maybe I would have hurried a little bit.
Yeah, at no point did I know the tower was collapsing. There
is one bizarre part of the game that I don't think it's worth spoiler breaking for, but there is one odd room that I was like, what is happening? Why is this room exist? And then I just decided, like, I don't really care. I don't think it's worth spoiler breaking for.
There are none of this game means anything. There's no spoiler. I just said oh no, now you know the castle collapses at the end. I didn't know for sure that we were in a castle.
Yeah, that's it, guys.
One thing that the game does a great job of is
wait, don't leave me hanging.
Yeah,
what was the
what's the weird
mysterious
room
thing that you were?
Yeah, what's the
where
weird
you
room?
just like run around and hit all the switches, and then it's like that didn't do anything at the end of the game.
I never reached that room.
I don't know what room you're talking about.
Okay, well, I stumbled upon a room where you hit a bunch of switches in order, and then like I didn't know what to do next, so I just left. I was like, I literally hit everything in this room. Nothing happened, and the door's been open since the beginning.
Oh,
Maybe that was
probably trying to unlock a secret
room. Yeah,
and I just ran around. I hit every switch, and everything in the room aligned itself into nice, pretty blocks. And then I just left the way I came.
My guess is there's a perfect order to unlock
There's a perfect
secret.
order, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There was a little scroll that said like embrace your imperfections, and I was like, am I
Shut
supposed
up,
to
mouse.
do this in just the right order that things can't put themselves in
yeah.
I don't know.
Shut up,
I don't know what
Ghost
happened in
Pig,
that
you're
room. I spent
imperfect.
5 minutes hitting switches, nothing happened, and I left.
Well, that was how I felt about a lot of the puzzles in this. You know, sometimes you go into a room, you spend a long time fooling around with the puzzles, and then you leave and you never go back to it. And it allows that. You can leave if you don't like this particular puzzle.
No. I didn't access the map. I walked out the door I came into. And it was the only puzzle that there was. I could still go through the door I came into.
Hey, you solved it. That's the puzzle. You go in the room and you'd get tricked until you finally realize that the solution was right there all along. Yep.
The solution was just to
Listen,
leave
Laura,
before trying.
Embrace your imperfections.
Neither of you guys found this room?
I don't know.
remember it at
Maybe there's like 100-something levels.
So, before we wrap up, I want to kind of just place this in the pantheon of puzzle platformers. You know, indie games, the indie gaming revolution, you know, if you will, has produced a lot of puzzle platformers in the last few years, and then the genre has a long history as well. Do you guys think that this stands up as a great puzzle platformer that people should play, or is there like where does this stand in the canon of puzzle platformers?
I think it's rare to find something that the level designs are as polished and well paced, that the slow drip of new knowledge and new tutorial skills. I mean, so many puzzle platformers give you tutorials because they have to. This one, other than a few exclamation point markers that told you, press tab to do something, it gave you no instructions. And I think for that reason, this one stands out. It's not revolutionary, but it's very well done.
Yeah, I would almost recommend sitting down to play this game from start to finish in a short amount of time is probably actually not the ideal way to play it. I almost would like to, I'm looking forward to, from time to time, just going back and finding, it turns out I was just looking at my stat screen. I rescued 13 of 16 sheep souls. So there are 3 sheep souls still waiting for me to save.
They just died in that tower.
Yeah, well, they did collapse. I'm assuming I can sift through the rubble. But I guess my point being is that I do recommend playing this game. But I almost recommend just playing it from time to time. Do a zone of levels and play whatever else you're playing. And go on and play some more Scapegoat. And don't necessarily try to grind through because there's a lot of them. And they're quick and you're going to die a lot. And I won't say I ever got frustrated, but there were times where I was like, okay, I think I'm done maneuvering this little goat right now. And I would just stop playing. And it'd be great to come back and maybe get a fresh take on a puzzle or something like that.
Yeah, I think I played this game I completed the game after about 4 hours. I think altogether I spent about 6 hours playing it, and I played that over the course of at least 4 or 5 sessions. And it really does play well that way. I'd say as far as the canon of puzzle platformers are concerned, I don't think this is necessarily a standout genius genre-changing game. But what it is a really great example of a standard, simple, but really well done puzzle platformer. And if you like puzzle platformers, this is a good game to play because it's such a competent and really smart one. If you don't know if you like puzzle platformers, this would be a wonderful introduction to the genre because it's so zen, like Laura was saying. It's low stress. There's, it doesn't make a lot of demands in terms of skill. It just makes demands in terms of thinking creatively and, really observing the puzzles and the way that things move and finding solutions creatively.
Yeah, we like to give praise to developers who spend time with a game, right? Make sure, we keep bringing back up Towerfall, or at least I do. I love Towerfall, but
Very good.
But it's the little details and the attention to making sure everything works exactly right. It may not be innovative. It may not be like a revelation in the genre, but it just works and it's fun and it accomplishes what it's trying to do.
And I think there's a lot of puzzle platformers that have aspirations to art. Thomas Was Alone is one example.
Which
we did for the show. That was, I think, our second game.
Oh, yeah. And is a wonderful game, but you're right.
Braid, which we'll do eventually. Fez, even though it's 3D, has a lot of that same puzzle platformer mechanic. There's usually platforming and X twist.
Yeah, and then sometimes the idea of the puzzle, the central conceit of the puzzle, is something where they're trying to be very clever. Like I played and really did enjoy Teslagrad, which was trying for this polarity and magnetism based puzzles, or they always have this sort of central conceit about the puzzles, the portal gun in Portal, or the swapper gun in the Swapper, or puzzle games always have this sort of central conceit. This game didn't really have a single central conceit. What it had was very standard, simple, very easy to understand platforming mechanics and levels that were clever enough that made you really think about interesting ways to use those simple, easy to digest mechanics.
The primary mechanic is jumping, right?
Yeah, and so many platformers or puzzle platformers are trying to make the central mechanic a metaphor for human existence. It's kind of comforting, even though it might not, other than our shipping wars, I don't think we had any deep philosophical comments on this game. But are they great, well-designed puzzles? Yes.
So I'm really glad we got a chance to play this game. People can find it for just $10, which is a great price. $10. You can buy this game on Steam for Mac, PC, or Linux. It was published by Double Fine, and they put a lot of marketing energy behind it. And there's a lot of great reviews of it out there. If you want to read more, just do a little Googling.
If you're feeling cheap, Scapegoat 1 is $1 on Xbox.
Wow, really? It's only $5 on their website, but $1 is a great deal. You can think of Scapegoat 1 as kind of a demo for this, because it's really the same puzzle mechanics and the same game concepts condensed down to about 30%-ish of the size of the full game. And of course, you can play this game on a computer, but you can also play it on the PlayStation 4. And that's where I played it. Awesome. Also $10 on the PlayStation Store. So you should definitely pick up this game and check it out if you haven't already. And I hope you have. Hopefully we'll catch you next week on another episode of The Short Game. I've been your host, Reagan Kelly. I'm at Reagan K on Twitter. That's RAYGANK. Laura, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Laura J. Nash.
And Nate, where can people find you?
You can find me also on Twitter at NateSTL.
And of course, you can follow our show on Twitter at _shortgame. Or of course, you can leave us feedback on our website or info@theshortgame.net if you happen to be email inclined. So thanks again for listening, and hopefully we'll catch you again on another episode of The Short Game.